What's up, buddy? You're on mute. I got you. I got you.
Awesome.
That made me nervous.
Yeah. Going for the full headphones, huh?
Dude, my kids are home. I mean, they're the only way that I can keep any sort of sanity.
Yeah. Yeah. I understand it. You might have the occasional.
Hold on. All right, you're back.
Yeah.
I'm trying to get to you here. Yes. Everybody keeps on joining. Let me see where you're at. Aaron Remorenko. I want to get you to be co-host. There you go. How do you like that?
Nice.
So if I do, I wonder how I mute everybody or not.
I don't know. Maybe leave it open.
I think what I might do is, because if I mute, let me see, if I mute all, tell me if it mutes you.
It does, because I think that's
It
what
does.
happened earlier.
So I'll just have everybody go on mute.
Yeah.
Okay. Let me get my screen here.
Fortunately, I'm realizing the quietest room in my house is also the darkest.
Oh, yeah?
I actually have a light on in here. It just doesn't look like it.
So if I do share screen, wait, share screen, multiple participants can share simultaneously?
Yeah.
That's what I want?
Well, I don't know, because do you just want to pass it back and forth? Because I think that's
Okay.
I don't know if we want our stuff up at the same time.
No, I don't. Definitely don't.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. I had to go to the campus today. I had to go get all my stuff out of the office.
Really?
Oh, yeah. There's nobody there. It's like completely empty.
Yeah. I was talking to my sister. She went into their office Saturday, I guess, because she had to pick up a few things. And she's like, honestly, she's like, it was like any other Saturday. And the fact it's like, nobody had actually taken any of their stuff because they weren't expecting, they were basically expecting to be back within a week or something, And so she was like, yeah, it was pretty normal then. I bet if you went back now, people have come in and done like she did and kind of grabbed a bunch of stuff and cleared it out.
We might have Gary Bean jumping on.
All right. Nice.
If he gets on, I'm gonna make him a co-host so he can talk or do whatever. Oh, he is. Let's see what Gary is.
Is this the first time everybody's gotten together on the Zoom? Yeah.
Yeah. There's a really cool thing that you could do where you can see like all these reports, who stays on, how long they stay on for.
Yeah. Well, like I know we've got people who are, they're like our learning people. And so like any of our webcasts, they were always like, yep, like we'll give you whatever stats you need on this and that. And it's like, hey, like the proof's in the pudding.
Exactly. Exactly. How are you, Zach?
Good. How are you?
Doing good, buddy. Doing good.
Good to hear.
Oops.
Gary Bean, still connecting to audio. Let's go, Gary.
He's struggling.
I'm letting everybody in. Here we go. Whoa.
Hi.
Whoa. Look at this group. How we doing? Everybody surviving? I hope so. We got a lot of mutes. Everybody on mute. Let's see. I'm gonna wait a couple more seconds. Jack Kennedy, how are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Good to see you. I'm doing great. Doing great.
Good.
Alex, looks like Alex is on a beach somewhere. Looks nice.
Yeah, I mean, if I can't actually be on a beach, might as well seem like I am, right?
Oh man, I gotta get a better background. I mean, this isn't doing it for me here. That's impressive.
Oh, it's not working. I've clicked it 100 times.
What's that?
It's breaking up a lot.
Oh.
All right, so listen, everybody, first things first, everybody go on mute. That'll take care of all of that nonsense on the side. Gary's trying to join. So this is new for everybody. Obviously, it's new for me. Show of hands. Does everybody know where that hand thing is on the side? How many people have taken a Zoom class before? Okay, that's not the thing on the side, but okay, we have 5 participants raise their hands. So this is new for me. And I think I spoke to some of you guys last night in the sense of I didn't sign up in the beginning of my Bentley tenure to be a Zoom instructor. But we're all going to manage through this for the next 6 weeks the best way we can, okay? So what I would ask of you guys is keep the participation level up that we did in class. This is a sales class, so it's not the easiest to teach from a basement, all right? And I'm sure equally for you guys, it's not easy to learn from a beach or from a bedroom or a closet or wherever else we're learning from tonight, right? And going forward. That being said, nothing changes from the syllabus's perspective, okay? So nothing is going to change for the next few weeks from a syllabus's perspective. We're going to have our regular lectures. I still have all of the guest speakers lined up to give you guys what you guys deserve, which is the best learning environment, best learning experience. Okay. I see that 8 more people have raised their hand. Thank you. That's what I can give you guys for the next 6 weeks. Okay. If you just joined, please go on mute. 1 second. For those of you guys just coming in, go on mute, please. So that being said, what we're going to do tonight is, in lieu of going into the group questions, because I have it all broken out. I'm going to work through this next week to go into breakout rooms. I do have your working groups already assigned, and I have those already situated so that way if we need to move you guys into these working groups, we can do that. However, for night 1, it would be a complete calamity if I tried, and I'm not going to try to do that. So we're going to save the group questions because you guys just went over those in your tests. All of the tests have been released, so you guys should have your grades. Show of hands, does everybody have their grades from quiz number 2, test number 2? Yes, everybody got them? Okay. All in all, you guys did a great job. I mean, at the end of the day, I think we had, 88% of the kids had a B or higher. So it's either the tests were really easy or the tests were really easy, or you guys are just learning so much in this class, which is obviously a great thing. Okay? So congratulations to you guys. Check the announcements for class. I sent out an email in regards to Aaron's talk tonight, okay, on prospecting and what that means. And also, there's a bit of a reading for next week, which we'll discuss. It's, I believe it's 22 pages on virtual sales and what it means for the environment that we're about to go into from a virtual sales perspective. before I go into the beginning of prospecting, which is chapter 9, I want to ask, is Gary Bean on the line? I would take that as you are, Gary. Where are you?
Am I not showing my video?
I see you. Okay. Hold
Yeah.
on one second. Let me
all
let me
the
see if I can
background
do this.
stuff.
Gotcha. Let me give me 1 second. So guys, first of all, let me introduce you to everybody in class, to both Gary as well as Aaron. And I'm going to ask Gary and Aaron real quick before I go into the beginning stages of prospecting, that what that means from a sales perspective. Gary, say a couple words about what you do, who you work for, how it relates to sales, and Aaron, do the same. That way the class kind of gets a feeling for who you guys are.
You want me to go first?
Sure.
Hi, class. My name's Gary Bean. I've been in the technology sales space for 25 years now, so a little bit older. I have seen quite a bit from large organizations, which I work for now. I work for a division of SAP, one of the largest software companies in the world. I happen to work for actually the smallest group within SAP. Our group, we own the largest SMS platform in the world. So today, we will do over 2 billion messages throughout the world. Probably a little bit more than that due to the pandemic. But as far as sales, I've always gone after new business. So prospecting is something that a lot of people don't like to do. It's not the most enjoyable, but it is part of sales in the sales process, and hope to talk a little bit more about it as we move through. So feel free to ask questions. There are no dumb questions ever. The only dumb question is the one you don't ask. So that's what I have for right now. Aaron, it's all yours.
Thanks, Gary.
Thanks, Gary.
Hold on, Aaron, before you go, everybody, if you're not on mute, please go on mute. I heard some celery crunching there, so that's good. Hope you're using some, some peanut butter and maybe some raisins on top, but please go on mute while somebody else is talking. Go ahead, Aaron.
All right, thanks, Zeb. So my name is Aaron Remorenko. Happy to join everybody tonight. Zeb, thanks for having me. So my background in a nutshell is I've been in financial services and insurance for about 20 years. And I'm not a practicing salesperson, but I've always, sort of had one level removed from sales folks. So started my career in client service. Really, that's about selling directly with the customer every day in terms of your credibility and the value that you can bring to your customer. And then more recently, I've moved into more strategy and analytics roles. And so that's what I'm going to share with you guys. Most recently, I was with Lincoln Financial in our group benefits business. Just left there in February. Before that was with Liberty Mutual for a number of years. So I've seen different businesses, whether they be retail or B2B. So I have a different perspective to bring, depending on sort of what the circumstance is, and looking forward to sharing some of that with you guys. And I'll just reiterate what Zev and Gary have already said. Just jump in, sort of I've done webcasts of this size a number of times, sort of they always work best if, sort of everybody just kind of takes the gloves off and jumps in. So as we're going in, if you have a question, don't be afraid to jump in, interrupt, sort of raise that hand. We'll definitely, we'll work our way through it in this format and sort of get pretty comfortable with it pretty quickly.
So does anybody have a good definition about prospecting? Who read chapter 9? Right? Okay, we got a couple of hands up. Good. So does somebody want to start the dialogue here? What is prospecting? I can call on anybody. I got 36 people. Karen, right? Amanda, how are you?
Good. How are you?
I'm doing wonderful. First of all, where are you calling in from?
I'm in a Chicago suburb.
Very nice. Okay. Well, welcome. Thank you for being here tonight. Talk to me about prospecting.
Prospecting is like the process of identifying new and potential customers.
Okay. Anybody else want to expound on what our esteemed colleague just said? Identifying new customers. Anything else? Yes, Mr. Kennedy. You lowered your hand. Whoops. There's our first Lauren. Your hand is up. Lower that thing if you don't want to be called on.
Yeah, I can answer it.
Go ahead.
Just gathering as much information you can on future clients or possible people to sell to.
Yeah. I mean, I think prospecting in Aaron and Gary, you can jump in the beginning here. I love prospecting because I think it's an opportunity for us as salespeople. At the end of the day, what we're trying to do is we're trying to develop who we're going to call on, what our cadence is going to be, right? Who are the people that at the end of the day we're going to go to, and how many times we're going to get sales out of these people? Is it going to be incremental business? What is that business going to look like down the road? So when you prospect, you put together, we talked in class when I was able to stand in front of you guys, one of the first things we do is we put a plan in place, right? And that plan looks like an offensive playbook. And that plan can go as far and as wide as you want it. But the good salespeople are able to siphon that plan down and really hone in on what prospects are key for their business. So Aaron, Gary, you have any examples of prospecting or how you guys use prospecting in your business?
Yeah, for us, the biggest thing that we try to do is, because we sell through brokers, is identify which brokers have the most business. We're for Lincoln, we're talking about a $4 billion annual revenue business. Annual sales are close to 750 million. And so to be able to drive those types of numbers, we have to be really discreet in terms of who it is that we're targeting to make sure that we can hit those types of sales goals, because they're aggressive and they go up every year. And so that's exactly what we do, is figure out who are those prospects that have that type of growth potential that allow us to hit those metrics.
Perfect. Gary, do you have anything to add?
Exactly, on the same idea. It's identifying who's going to buy, right? So you think about it from the beginning, and you say, all right, it's prospecting, sure, but who is the prospect, right? You have to come up with that plan, as Ev said, having a sales plan and being able to maneuver that plan as things progress and as things change, whether it's by revenue, whether it's by location, whether it's by buying power. Even today, my group alone, we had our own prospecting meeting online, and we literally got back down to the roots of, okay, how is this going to happen with the new world we're living in here today with the pandemic? But it's being able to think about what that plan is and being able to target them on a daily basis. And that can change. So don't be afraid to change your prospecting plan and technique to what is going to work for you.
I would also say, guys, Zach, you have your hand up. You want to lower that, or do you have a question?
Oh yeah, I forgot it was up. My bad.
Okay. So guys, take this as an opportunity, even from a sales perspective. A lot of people in my company are doom and gloom. They're thinking that the sky is falling or whatnot. I think that this is a great opportunity for me. Today I was on 2 calls with people prospecting, 2 people that really haven't jumped on board, and I was able to actually have a sales call with them remotely to tell them how we're going to be able to manage through samples, how we're going to be able to manage through this process, which is up in the air. So take it as an opportunity from a sales perspective that things are always changing. One of the things we always say in classes is it's never a straight line, right? Sales is never a straight line. It goes up, it goes down, it goes left and right. You have to be able to be nimble and change with those things. And who knows how long this is going to last for from a sales perspective, right? We don't know. We could be out until May, June, but the numbers still have to be able to be operative. So it's my job as a sales professional to sit there and think about how I'm going to prospect. What am I going to do tomorrow in order to generate that business? Now, here's the first technical try. I'm going to share my screen. This will probably be a huge fail, but we'll try it. I mean, we're going to go for it. Here we go. We're going to do a little of this, a little of that. And we're going to go right here. And we're going to do the little this. Can everybody see this? Give me a thumbs up if you guys can see what we're looking at here.
Yep, we can see it.
Yep, I can see it selling today.
Perfect. So couple of things to take note. We're not going to go over all this because Aaron has his own way of talking through prospecting. And when we talked yesterday, I thought it was an excellent way to kind of look at the business as a whole and prospecting as a whole. But something that we can talk on is how do you develop a prospect? What does that look like? How do you identify and assess the importance of it? How do you qualify, and the steps in managing the prospect through that account list? So our main purpose is to make sales, but it's also to create customers. You know, I would ask you guys from a Bentley perspective, do you agree or disagree with that statement? The main purpose of a salesperson is not to make sales, but to create customers. So I'll stop right there. What do you guys think of that? Agree or disagree? Yes, Zach.
I would agree because
Okay, why?
your goal should never be like a one-time sale. It should always be to create like a consistent stream of business.
Okay. Who else has any? Stathis.
I agree too, just because like you make that initial sale of me saying I'm going to go to Bentley, but then like keeping me as a customer to make maybe future donations or to come back and help Bentley as a community. So like keeping me as a customer.
Okay. And Lottie, what do you think?
Yeah, I agree with that because I think even if you don't make like the sale initially, but you like advise them on something that's like best for them, in the end, they're probably going to come back to you like multiple times versus like if you make a sale that's like bad for them, they're never going to come back.
Correct. I mean, and realistically, guys, any of those answers is great. You know, but what you're trying to do is create residual business in some way. You're creating customers. You're creating a customer that feels good about what you're talking about to them. There's a really cool quote here that he took out, talks about creating customers. And it spoke to me in the way that how you sell matters, what your process is matters, but how your customers feel when they engage with you matters more. So I'm going to stop right there real quick. What do you guys think about that quote? Somebody that hasn't spoken tonight. Brendan, what do you think about that quote?
I mean, I think it just speaks to the fact that you have to kind of, I don't know, connect with the customer on more of a personal level as opposed to, like, I mean, like we just sort of touched on, like there's making sales and then there's creating customers. Like you have to try to create customers in order to get their repeat business and things like that.
And
also to transition that into new customers.
Courtney, what do you think? What do you think about that quote? Do you agree or disagree?
I also agree with it.
Why?
I missed the quote.
Hold on. How you sell matters. What your process is matters, but how your customers feel when they engage with you matters more. So why is that? Why do you agree with that quote? What it is about that quote that resonates with you?
Yeah, I think it just goes, oh, do you keep taking it away? That's why. Okay.
Yeah, because I can't see anybody that speaks.
Okay, I got it. Again, it just goes back to what we've been talking about from day one. It's about the customer at the end of the day. So it's not like as much, like obviously your process matters, but at the end of the day, it's like the relationship with the customer and what they want.
100%. I mean, guys, your words when you're in sales has so much impact. Think about your individual role plays. Think about what you guys did from those individual role plays. What you said, what you put together matters, okay? Relationships matter. How you make a customer feel matters. No matter what you guys say or do, that's what matters the most, right? So can anyone define what a customer experience is? And what are some ways we can create a positive customer experience? So first two questions, I got to stop sharing because I can't see you guys, but can anyone define what a customer experience is? And what are some ways we can create a positive customer experience? Lottie.
Oh, sorry, I forgot to like put my hand down, but I guess I can answer it too. Well, the way I think about it is more like similar to like the buyer's journey, where like it's what the like customer, like exactly what they go through and like how they feel at like different like steps of the way.
Yeah. And can you help create that? How?
Yeah,
As a salesperson, how can you help create that positive customer experience?
well, you can make sure what you're doing is like tailored to a specific customer instead of just like throwing out a bunch of like options. You can like really do your research on the customer and make sure you tailor it to them and are there for like all their specific like needs and concerns.
Exactly. And Zach, what did you have to add?
Yeah, I was just gonna say like it's basically just like how you make a customer feel. That's their experience. Is like how you deal with them, and that hinges almost entirely on you as the salesperson, like how you treat them when you're making that sale.
Right. Attentive to their needs. Are you ethical? What are you sharing with them? How are you acting towards the competition? Those things. That's what's going to separate you from the competition. That's what's going to create a positive customer experience. I guess the other side to that is what happens when the customer experience or the process is viewed as negative. And does anybody have any real world examples? And think about your personal lives. When a customer experience was negative and you got out of an experience and you said, my God, I don't think I'd ever do that again. Anybody have any personal experiences or any experiences in their jobs where that's happened? Mr. Barth.
So at my internship, we were always having problems with like the phone company, like our phone provider. And the last time we had a problem, it took them like 3 hours to solve it. And it was like a super simple solve that someone could have just told us from the start. But like we had to jump through hoops to get there. And my boss basically said like, see you guys, I'm not paying the bill. Like, I'll see you later.
Yeah. Anybody else have a negative experience with a customer? Who else? Tara.
I remember a few years ago, my dad was trying to buy a car and we had gone to a car dealership and the salesman was so rude that we just ended up leaving. Like he walked away quickly and we just left without even like really saying anything because he was just so unpleasant and we never looked back.
Yeah. Think about times. How many of you guys have been in a restaurant and you're sitting at the table and the waiter keeps walking by you and you're sitting there waiting to get a drink and you're sitting there waiting to get served and you're wondering, what's going on? I thought I put deodorant on this morning. I don't know why they keep walking by me, but they keep walking by me and I can't get any help. Do you have a good experience or is that a negative experience from that institution? It's negative, right? All things. Amanda, what did you have to add?
I mean, like I was a server this summer, so like I had to think about being on the other side of that, but I did have a customer tell me that her quesadilla tasted like prison food. And like, I'm not the cook, so I don't really know how to respond to that. And I was like, well, why are you ordering a quesadilla at like a bar? But yeah, so that's just another example.
Yeah, I mean, and as the salesperson or as the waitress, it's incumbent upon you to make sure that that customer has a positive experience. So all good answers. Thank you guys for sharing those with us. And it's incumbent upon us to make sure the customer feels as though they have a good experience. So prospecting, Austin, there he is. Give me 1 second. I'm going to stop here and I'm going to allow Aaron to pick up prospecting from his perspective. Aaron is an expert in both sales, but also operations. And Aaron came in last semester and did a talk on segmentation. And for those of you that don't know what segmentation is all about, we're going to get a crash course right now on what sales segmentation is all about. And I cannot stress enough how important and vital this is to developing good customers, walking customers through the sales process, and really figuring out and honing in on specific messages for specific accounts. We use this, and Aaron, you can always go back to me in reference, but we use this on a daily basis at Novartis, segmentation. Something I thought I would never use, and I kind of laughed at when they rolled it out to us, but it has been vital as far as how we look at our business and siphon messages down to each specific account. And so with that, I'll let you take over for a little bit, Aaron.
All right, thanks. Yeah, so I'll bring up some slides. Let's see. All right, can everybody see that?
Yep.
Okay, cool. So I'm going to skip through a little bit. So I think one of the things that Zev just touched on, I think is so spot on, even in his own experience. So, you think about analytics as a tool, and we're going to walk through some of those applications, segmentation, how it can really help you in terms of prospecting, how it can really help you in terms of figuring out how to engage a particular profile or segment in terms of a prospect, and then just how you can manage your results as well. And, I think back and sort of, I always think about things in sports analogies, and so to keep it local, I think about the evolution of, 10, 15 years ago, the Celtics had a guy on their club who was considered to be a star named Antoine Walker. Antoine could score, he could rebound a little bit when he wanted to, but he couldn't play defense, and he had a bunch of gaps in his game. And the thing is, the game has now changed so much that a guy who's probably of equal stature in the league, like Jason Tatum, he can do all those things. And I think about it, it's the same way for salespeople and how you use analytics at this point. Because, 10 to 15 years ago, analytics, segmentation, things like that, you didn't necessarily need them. Now it's just an absolute part of the everyday job. And the way that analytics get used and how you use them to really be successful, it's just going to be one of those things. It's got to be part of your repertoire. It's got to be part of your game. So I'm really happy to share some of this stuff with you. So, the big thing on the analytical skill set that you need to have is, think about it as a set of tools. You can also think about it, quite honestly, as, a bag of golf clubs. And the question then is, are you going to pull the right club out of the bag for what you're trying to do? So I think about it, first thing is, let's, I can come back to some of the stuff if we need to for data. But I think the big thing is, start with thinking about what constitutes a good prospect and what's the type of prospect that you can ignore. So I'd like to start there and just kind of open it up. There are no wrong answers to this. Just what do you think constitutes a good prospect for, sort of for the particular drug that you've been researching, or just for any product in general?
Stathis.
I guess like a good prospect, you could pick out for your product, like what a good age range is to like aim at. Cause perhaps like your product is for people in our age group. You wouldn't be wasting your time trying to sell it to someone who's 60 and over, because that would just be a waste.
Absolutely. Who else? I see Emily's hand up.
Yeah, hi. So I would say something that you could look at is if the customer's needs actually line up with some of the features of your product and the problems it's able to solve.
Absolutely. So let's flip that on its head. What are the characteristics of a bad prospect? And really thinking about what you do with a bad prospect in general is you want to ignore them. So they're kind of two sides to that coin. Really thinking about, sort of to be able to really focus on one, you do need to sort of take away that attention from the other. So what's a bad prospect look like?
All right, I'm just gonna go ahead. Can you hear me?
Yep, let it rip.
All right. So I was gonna say maybe not characteristics of a bad prospect, but characteristics of bad prospecting might be to just try to get as many leads as you can. Like if you're like in an entry level role, it might be like make 200 calls a day and get this many leads. But if none of them are gonna end up as sales, then I think that's bad prospecting. For an example of it.
I don't see a thing for my hand there, but I'd like to add bad prospecting. Who just spoke there?
Andrew.
Talked about the 200 calls. What was his name?
Andrew.
Andrew, that was fantastic. There's a lot of metrics that a lot of organizations use, and one of them is just dialing for dollars. And if you're just making 200 phone calls just to meet that 200 number, you're going to do nothing in sales. Right? It's going to be a horrible experience for you. It's going to be a horrible experience for whomever you get to speak to. And when you get to that point of having a chance to speak to somebody that is potentially a prospect, you want to be in a good setting, and doing 200 calls just to get there is not. So when you talk about bad characteristics, look at yourself first. You know, you go into your day and you think about, okay, what is it that I'm going to accomplish? And I do this every day. It took me a while to understand this, but you need to be confident in yourself, confident in what you're trying to accomplish in selling, whether it's a product or solution, or even just getting to speak to somebody. You don't need to sell that first day. You don't need to sell that first call. But some bad characteristics is not preparing yourself to what you want to achieve that day. And if it's just one conversation, that is a great achievement. And there's nothing to be ashamed about when you're prospecting, and if you strike out for the day, because that is going to happen a lot more than the other side of winning. And in sales, you need to understand that when you're getting into it. There's going to be bad days in a row, and it's going to feel like, why did I get into this position? But if you can prepare yourself and get yourself in the right mind of, okay, this is it. This is what we're doing. And if we get there today, great. If not, what am I taking out of this today? Then you have a chance to be successful in each day, and take it that way from there. So I just wanted to kind of throw that out there, because getting into this and prospecting, that first characteristic is yourself.
Well stated.
Thanks, Gary.
Yep.
Then that leads to the first piece to really sort of dig in on, which is, you know, sort of is I'm sure, you know, Gary and Zeb can attest. When it comes to the resources that are most scarce for you as a salesperson, it's your time. It's who you choose to focus on. So you really want to make sure that you're spending it wisely. That's why prospecting is so important at the end of the day. So I'll run you through an example, and just to tee you up, what I'm going to talk about is really the group benefits business that I was a part of at Lincoln. And so that you understand that basically we as an insurance carrier, we're selling through brokers to employers, and those employers were ultimately buying our products like group life, short-term and long-term disability, things of that nature. So simple example, just to kind of warm us up, is, you know, looking at it and how do you start to use analytics to help you in this prospecting process. And one of the first things you want to do is do your research, right? And so we've got broker A and broker B here on the screen, and a pretty easy choice in terms of who you should focus on. One's got 500 employers in their book of business. They're doing 10 million in annual revenue, and they're growing. Broker B, smaller in both of the metrics and have a flat revenue trend. So you want to have this type of information, because otherwise, as Gary said, you don't just want to be indiscriminately dialing for dollars. You know, that is that's a great way to waste time. So you really want to avoid that and focus on where the best opportunities are. And so the way that you do that is one of the first applications of segmentation. And to make sure that everybody understands what I mean when I talk about segmentation, segmentation is really, it's the process of grouping together like prospects or like customers, so that you can really start to treat them differently based on the profiles that they present. So to kind of get you warmed up, you know, I was thinking about this, and our rookie sales reps. So, you know, these are folks who are straight out of school. So some of you folks will be in this position, you know, later this year. So when we would have a rookie sales rep join Lincoln, we typically put them in a territory and give them about 100 small brokers that would be their territory. And I always think about this as there was we had a rookie sales rep named Eddie in South Florida. And I got to know Eddie pretty well. And I always thought about it from his perspective to say, okay, great, you're Eddie, you walk in the first day, you're ready to go, you're given this list of 100 brokers. Now, you've got some choices there to make. And the last thing that Eddie should do is then try to set up meetings with 100 brokers, because he's going to lose time. He's not going to be focused on the most valuable partnerships that he could build and start to really build those relationships with. So what we can do is create a very simplified segmentation model. So really just break it out into segment A and segment B. So really following kind of those profiles we looked at on the previous slide. and you just draw a cut line. You say, if a broker has more than 5 million in annual revenue, we're going to put them in segment A. They have less than that, we're going to put them in segment B. This is the type of information that's usually available in some form or fashion to salespeople. And what that does is it allows Eddie to immediately say, great, here are the 25 partners that I really need to be working with. This is where I should spend my time. So then you think about playing that forward. And so here's a slightly different view on it. You think about what the benefit of doing that is. So one of the first benefits is he has 75 introductory calls that he doesn't have to make. And so he just gained a lot of time. On the flip side, every call that he makes, there should be more deal value behind it because he's getting a bigger cut he's getting a cut at a bigger part of the market. So you really think about that, sort of, I have the split here is 90-10 to say, that segment A, they have 90% of the market. That's where he wants to spend his time. The 80-20 rule comes to mind. That's always something that, is used for strategy, and segmentation is kind of a guiding light. But what it also allows you to do is start to think about how do you deal with these different partners? Because you might have a broker from segment B who calls you and says, hey, I'd like you to quote on this piece of business, or, can you come out and talk to us about your capabilities? And what you're doing if you start to engage on that level is you're starting to leak some of that capacity, and that might get in the way of you actually achieving your goals. And so you have to have a fair amount of discipline. I used to always walk by one of our sales reps. We sort of worked on the same hallway. This guy, Dennis, a couple of times a week, he would always come out of his office and ask, he'd say, hey, I've got this relationship and I keep working it. And I'm not sure if I should keep going. Should I keep going? And we would always kind of go back and look at some of the information like this to say, well, it doesn't seem like there's a lot there. So it seems like it's time to cut bait, and Zev and I have talked about this before, and, sort of with the passing of Kenny Rogers, the know when to hold them, know when to fold them mantra really comes into play. So I think that's a big piece to really think about as you're going through that prospecting, to say, make sure that you're really focused on the right partner, make sure they're going to help you achieve what your goals are and obviously what your company's trying to get done.
Just to jump in real quick, one of the reasons why this is important is as you guys go out into the sales force, right? As you guys get jobs in sales, you guys are going to be met with a ton of opportunities right off the bat. You're going to get a book of business and you're going to think, I am the greatest sales rep in the world. I am going to change every single person in this book of business. That's not reality. Reality is your book of business, you're going to realize real quick, if you're going in front of them, it might be 10% of that book. It might be 25% of the book of business. So my caution to you is look at your business from day one, like Aaron is presenting. Think about segmenting your business if you're not already doing that. And the reason why is because what Gary said earlier, you're going to be spinning your wheels. You might be going into a prospect where at the end of the day, they'll never write your product. But because they're in your book of business, you feel compelled that you have to go in there and you have to call on them and pitch your product or try to sell them something, right? So think of it that way. As a salesperson, you're not going to get everybody, but who can you get? What's the message you can get to them? And how do you use prospecting segmentation to get the most out of it, the maximum effect? Okay?
If I can add to that, Zev, if you have an opportunity to speak to somebody, even if it's it might not be leading somewhere, don't waste your time, but take a positive out of the conversation, because you never know. Earlier in the class here, we talked about, I forget who it was, but it was about the relationship. And that person might not need something today. It might not be a fit. But just being nice to somebody, saying please and thank you, and listening, you take that away, that person's going to remember you, whether it's a week, a month, a year, or wherever it may be. And it's something as a salesperson, just to take the positive out of it. It can be frustrating, but try to spin it in a positive way that you made a connection, you made a relationship somewhere, and you can build on that, go into the next call, or wherever you land at maybe another opportunity or wherever it may be. But try to take a positive out of everything. instead of, okay, well, this person, I wasted my time. No, you wasted your time because you didn't plan for it. Put the responsibility on yourself and take from it what you can.
Thank you.
So I'd like to open it up and just, sort of get people's reactions and, sort of you think about this and you put yourself in the shoes of, someone who's going to be taking on a territory, starting to have some sales goals, and sort of how do you think about this, and how do you find this type of information to be helpful? How do you operate in a space where maybe you don't necessarily have the clearest data, and sort of some of those analytics at your back? What do folks think? How daunting would it be to go in and sort of be given that list of prospects without any information behind it?
Who have I not called on? How about Fred? Fred, are you in Los Angeles?
No, I'm stuck in Waltham, actually.
Really? It looks beautiful. Is that a different background? My God.
Yeah. It's just a random background.
'Cause I'm in Waltham too, and it doesn't look like that. I'll tell you that right now.
No,
So our resident Fred is a music industry mogul. He's a owner of a music business.
Yeah.
What do you think about that question Aaron just posed to you?
Honestly, I would be panicking because when we run advertisements for our company, we are like really segmented down. Like it's really filtered down to an avatar. So like Facebook, we're definitely targeting ages 23 to like 31. We won't put any ads out that on Facebook that would be targeting anything between 18 to 22, because it's just not the platform where people at the current age of 18 to 22 would be mostly be on. Instead, those kids are mostly on Instagram. And then we also filter down our like advertising down to like male, female, what specific keywords and likes that they follow in order to like maximize our like ROI. But if I didn't have these analytics that I receive from like Spotify telling me the breakdowns of my audience, I would just be like uselessly spending advertising money or my marketing budget on something that wouldn't be efficient whatsoever.
Right, that's a great observation, because when you get into the markets that you're in, where it's you get a lot more data, you have a lot more customers. I mean, you could spin a lot, right, if you're targeting the wrong folks. And the good news is usually in those markets, because you have the data, you can build the analytics and the segmentation to really hyper target in a way that's going to be effective. And so, doing that in terms of, what you're doing for Spotify. I was actually on a webcast earlier today talking about how Spotify helps target and some of the features that they're rolling out and that sort of stuff. That is so spot on. And that's where you're seeing that more and more in terms of that's where this type of analytical work and segmentation is going. So back to the question of, do we have the right tool for the job? So in this particular case, Fred just talked about something that was pretty sophisticated, and it sounds like what he's got is the right tool for the job. Does it seem like we have the right tool for the job for trying to target brokers, at least in terms of that identification of here's who I should focus on, here's who I shouldn't? And if not, what do you think should be added in?
Let's go Matt Stevens. Let's go Matt Stevens.
Definitely. Can you hear me?
We got you.
Awesome. Well, can I actually go back to the previous question too, because I'd love to add something to that.
Yeah, please.
So when I jumped into my startup that I'm working at right now, they had a really broad picture of what they wanted to target. So I worked at the World Trade Center, and we worked with a lot of SMEs, bringing them into the United States. And the company's president really didn't know specifically what she wanted from SMEs. So she was like, oh, we'll go for agriculture and infotech and construction and all this type of stuff. And over like the time I've been there, we've slowly segmented it down into agriculture and more specifically like food and beverage and consumer products. And since we've done that, like the entire business model has just exploded and it's been a lot more successful. We've had a lot more like actual leads turn into customers. And that wouldn't have been possible without that slow segmentation that we've slowly understood was necessary. Mm-hmm. But can you, to answer this question, can you repeat the question?
Yeah, you know, the big question with any analytical tool is, does it suit the job? You know, does it give you does it answer the question that you're really trying to, you know, sort of get to the bottom of? And so, you know, sort of, does it feel like the segmentation that, you know, sort of we talked about to help Eddie in this particular case, target brokers, does that seem right, or does it seem like there should be more to it?
I think that's definitely, I can't really name anything specific as more to it, but I think that segmentation is definitely the first step. When you construct a business plan for any business, I think like one of the first things that you need to consider is the target market, and getting as niche as possible when considering the target market is really beneficial for your company, because then, like Fred said, you know exactly who to target on your advertisements and your marketing campaigns. And then you can start using different tools like email campaigns or digital marketing or in-person marketing, or in order to build on those successes based on what your target market responds to best. And I think that's it's just definitely the first step.
Absolutely. Yeah. And I think, you know, you hit on something that's really important, which is, you know, the old strategic axiom of, if you're focused on everybody, you're really focused on nobody.
Exactly.
And so you really need that to help you. And to speak to my experience when I was at Liberty Mutual, which was a broad retail business, you know, sort of thinking about, you know, sort of how we segmented that market in terms of different groups, how we marketed to them, what our tactic was, and what our sales approach was. We were constantly watching those metrics and really reacting in real time to make sure that we were tight on that segmentation. And if preferences moved, then, you know, our models and segmentation moved with them. You know, and that's really important in terms of keeping up with the market and making sure that you stay tailored and on point to, you know, sort of your target market in any one given segment, and certainly in your target customer set. Great. Zev, do you want to jump back to then shifting gears and talking about adaptive selling?
Yeah, I'm going to do that in a couple minutes. Are you good with what you wanted to present?
I've got more, but it probably makes sense after we talk about adaptive and get into that sort of next level of segmentation.
Yeah, give me one. Back. 1 second. All right, everybody, can everybody see this?
Yep.
Perfect. All right, let me go off to the side here. So adaptive selling. Real quick, guys, we talked a little bit about this, and this was actually, I got to stop this real quick. I got to see people's faces. I got to look at you. I'm sorry. So there was a question on the last test that had to do with adaptive selling, or the answer was style flexing. I would say 95% of you put style flexing for that answer. I gave you the full credit, but the answer was actually adaptive selling. So if you've read chapter 10, guys, Caitlin, I haven't heard you speak tonight. Give me your definition of what adaptive selling is. Your definition, not the book's definition.
Yeah, I'd say adaptive selling is kind of like going stage to stage and like thinking, how can I best serve this customer? So not necessarily what my personality is, but what the customer will best relate to.
All right. And does everybody agree with that? Anybody have something different that they want to share? Adaptive selling. Hugo. Good morning. How are you?
How are you?
Great to see you.
I'm good. Do you hear me?
What's that?
Do you hear me?
Perfectly.
Yeah. So say adaptive selling is about being able to listen to your customer and being able to respond to his first needs, and just to be able to communicate, understand what it wants from you and from your project.
Exactly. So guys, listen, there's no right or wrong answer. Everybody's going to have their own answer to this. Adaptive selling is how you adapt your sales strategy, your sales tactics to the needs of the customer. There's different ways that you can do this. Number one is you have to have a cogent presentation strategy. This is a really cool graphic that was put up in the book where it looks at all these different strategic consultative selling models. What I like to do is I like to think about all the sales strategies that we have covered so far in class. We've talked about a personal selling philosophy, developing a relationship strategy, developing a product strategy, customer strategy, and now we're talking about a presentation strategy. So my question for you guys is, what strategy is most important to you with regards to effective selling, and why? Take a second, look at this, right? What's most important to you in regards to effective selling, and why would you guys say that that's most important to you? All right, I'm going to stop sharing this. Everybody have what they want to pick? All right, so who wants to share?
The picture itself was pretty blurry, so I didn't really get a good look at it, but I'd say it's like very important to like have the product customized to like your direct needs, and that would probably be one of the
So a product strategy? Okay, a product strategy. Who else? Who else is something different? Alex.
Hello?
Yep, Alex.
Yeah, so just going back to what we were talking about earlier as far as treating the customer and making them have like a good experience, I still think the relationship strategy is one of the best and first and foremost that you need to adopt and be able to perfect. You want to make sure that your customer is being treated well and ethically, and making sure that they see you as a benefit and as a positive to their whole company in general. So you can have, you know, everything down to a T as far as your product and know all the knowledge about it. But if you're not able to relate to that customer or provide a benefit to them, they're not going to want to do business with you going forward, no matter if your product is actually helping them out or not.
Right. All right, Brendan.
Yeah, I was just going to add, like, I think relationship strategy is extremely important too for like the service industry. Like you're not always necessarily selling a tangible product. I know, Aaron, you mentioned that you did some time in the financial services industry, and like the relationship is everything there, because you have to come off as an extremely genuine representative, I guess, for your company to be able to get your clients business in the first place.
Yep. And Zach?
I was just gonna say, like, for me personally, the personal selling philosophy would be probably one of the biggest ones, because it's the building block of everything else, and without it, you're kind of lost. If you don't know like what you stand for, how you want to do your thing, then you aren't going to be able to pull it off well.
Right. I mean, I don't know about Gary and Aaron. I'd be interested to hear what your thoughts are on this. For me, guys, I think you know by now where I'm going to lean on this. For me, I'm a relationships guy, right? So if you have a good relationship strategy heading into it, you can build relationships, you can build rapport, you can get down and dirty, and you can get deep with your customers. I think the better the sale is going to end up being in the long run. You can have the greatest customer strategy. You can have an unbelievable presentation strategy and all these other things, but if somebody is sitting across from you and they're not vibing you and they're not feeling what you're feeling, it's probably going to be left on deaf ears. For me, in sales for 22 years, I've always put an onus on the relationship aspect of sales. I think everything else flows from that, and that's why some of the things that I talk about are more about relationships and less about the presentation. I told somebody yesterday, Cindy, you can have the greatest salesperson as far as a clinical salesperson is concerned, but if they can't develop a relationship with their customers, what's the point? You know, is it really worth it in the long run if you can't develop a relationship and talk to somebody? So I'm a relationships guy. I think that for me, You know, I'm all about developing that relationship strategy and then going from there. Your presentation strategy is important, and I liken this to this guy who's on the screen right here. Any sales and any sports people here know who this is that's featured on the screen right here? He looks like the guy from Home Improvement with the fence where you can't see half his face. But is there anybody out there in the ether that knows who this is?
Isn't he the offensive coordinator for the Pats?
No, not the Pats. Close.
Ah.
He's actually the so this is a picture of the head coach for the 49ers. And basically your presentation strategy, guys, think of it, is a plan. And that plan is like an offensive playbook. Okay, so you've already gone through all. Yeah, Shanahan. Exactly. Who did I say? I thought I said, but that's exactly who it is, and that's what your presentation strategy is, like an offensive playbook. You've already gone down the road. You've developed a personal selling philosophy, who you are. You know, you're marrying that marketing concept with the sales concept. You've developed a relationship strategy, product, customer, and now you're getting down and dirty into a presentation strategy. This is your offensive playbook, okay? Does anybody know who this is on the screen? Feel free to shout it out. Easy.
Lil Wayne.
Oh, okay. We got some, yes, there we go. So he's obviously a huge Red Sox fan. And one of the things that I liked about Lil Wayne is not only is this the guy that drinks out of that crystal chalice? Is this the same guy? I might be aging myself here, but he's a huge Red Sox fan, but he had an unbelievable quote, right? The quote is, the more time you spend contemplating what you should have done, you lose valuable time planning what you can and will do. This guy said this, which is absolutely spot on. Aaron and Gary, what do you think about this quote from a sales planning perspective?
So from my view, you take that quote and you come out of it, you know, it goes back to what I said about taking the positive, right? All right, so you think about, okay, what I could have done, what I should have done, what did I do wrong? Okay, think about it, write it down, whatever you do. Now spin it. Spin it to the positive. Where are you going to go with it? What are your next steps? How do you accomplish that? And I have some notes here but one big note, and it goes right to this quote that I have written down here is, and I want to share, do not be an expert on everything. It goes with the relationship that you're going to build. When you build that relationship with somebody, they're going to ask you questions, and they're going to know you don't know the answer. But if you have that relationship and you know that you can plan around the question that that person asked you, you can turn and ask for help, get the answer, come back with a plan. And you have just taken your relationship and your information and your selling strategy, your selling product up to the next step. So you brought everything that you've learned. So take that quote, learn from the mistake, and then spin it into a positive. How do you bring something positive back to the potential customer, your prospect, from there? So that's where I get from it.
Aaron?
Yeah, I mean, it's spot on from my standpoint, because we would have conversations with reps and you kind of knew how it was going to go right out of the gate, because someone would ask that question. They'd say, hey, I can't figure out why I can't get in with this broker. And then those are the ones that we'd be a little bit worried about. The ones that we knew were going to get are the ones who would say, hey, I want to get in with this broker. I need help figuring out a plan of how to get there. So that was one of the things that as a strategy and planning guy, you know, sort of me and my team help with. And those are the folks who come to us and say, I've got an idea. I need to build it out. And they want to walk through kind of that slide that Zev was showing of those different ways to say, you know, sort of, what do I need to do from a presentation standpoint? How do I position the product? This is what they're like as people. You know, how do I think about really getting in there and sort of matching and tailoring to be able to open that door? And that's when you really knew that those were the folks who were looking forward. They were figuring out how to build their business, you know, as opposed to other folks who were saying, who were really kind of stuck. They couldn't answer the question of, you know, what's on the screen? What am I looking at? You know, I don't know. Like, I don't know what to do with this stuff. You know, it's take it and take the bull by the horns and figure these things out proactively. And you're already ahead of the game by a country mile.
Right. So what is important here? What's it look like from a presentation strategy? Review objectives, review the model, review your plan, and prepare this worksheet, right? But it all goes towards this, guys, right? You can't have it without having your kind of offensive playbook. That's exactly what this is telling you to do. My question for you is, when you're preparing for the presentation, activities that occur before the meeting, the prospect, the first few minutes of the actual contact with the prospect, what is most important? So as salespeople, you have an unbelievable opportunity coming up, right? You're going to meet with a client, right? You have to prepare this presentation strategy. So my question for you is, this is an awesome time. And this is a fun time to be a sales representative, especially with clients that aren't writing your product or with new clients. So what's the most important aspect of this for you guys as new salespeople or as seasoned salespeople? Is it the pre-approach? Is it the pre-call planning? Is it developing a strategy? What do you guys think is the most important in your opinion? Alex from the beach, what do you think?
I mean, when I don't know from a sales call perspective or, you know, going and sitting down, but I think when I'm going into like in an interview, or if you're going into like our sales role play, the biggest thing that I kind of focus on or see as exciting is kind of preparing for the unexpected questions, you know, maybe coming up with some stuff that you don't think is going to be asked, but you can at least prepare for, so that if it is asked, you don't, you know, shiver in your boots and not know what to ask. So I think just being prepared and well-versed in everything that you're going to say, but also try to expect some black swans out there and, you know, not know exactly what you're going to be asked, but be able to bounce back and give a good, solid answer no matter what it's going to be.
Awesome. Who else? Status, what are you thinking?
I was gonna go with the same route, just like preparing first what you're gonna say and like the outline of your presentation, but also just being ready to like respond to one of those questions that might throw you off, and to not get completely thrown astray, but to stay to your roots, know your stuff, and to be able to respond like effectively.
Right. I think that this is probably one of the most important times from a sales perspective. You know, you got to develop this. This is something that you have to continuously practice on, right? It's not easy to do. It's not something that comes natural, but always prepare for the first few minutes of that actual contact with the prospect. So think about establishing rapport. Think about our individual role plays. What was effective? What wasn't effective? When you guys saw, you know, I guess at this particular juncture, 20 some odd of your students, of your peers do a role play, the people that were able to effectively build rapport, what did they do? What did you guys see from an audience perspective that the people that effectively built rapport, what do they do well? Mr. Barth.
Well, they personalized it pretty early into the conversation. So the second you make something more personal and you make yourself at least somewhat either relatable or vulnerable to a certain degree, you become not just another salesman. You're a human now. You're in conversation as opposed to pitching something.
Right. Who else? Think about Bill. Yeah, Chris.
I feel like they're all really good at listening, because you can easily ask people questions about themselves, and that's kind of as far as it goes. So I feel like it's important to listen to what they're saying and really take it in, and then ask kind of follow-up questions to just move the conversation a little bit more, rather than just how's it going, how's the family, stuff like that.
Right. I think I saw, there's two left, but I saw quite a few of these. And I still think about the one in class that was most impressive from a rapport building perspective, I believe, was Colby Keller's. Remember that one where we all sat there and it was like, it was conversational. It was fluid. you know, it was like you were sitting across from two friends at a bar, basically, and it captured that whole aspect of rapport building and what it means to establish this, you know, this new prospect, and build relationships and set the foundation for that first presentation. A lot easier to do when you're able to have that first initial brick, so to speak, laid for foundation for the first call. So, Aaron, I'm going to jump back to you here.
Yeah.
To take it from here.
Yeah, you know, and listen to the conversation, it all makes sense. You know, we had a sales manager who ran our Charlotte office, and he always had, you know, sort of an expression, you know, he'd ask, you know, sort of how are you doing with the relationship? And he always looked at it sequentially to say, first, they have to know who you are. Second, they have to like you. And third, they have to trust you. You know, and you really work on kind of building through that sequence, you know, to get to the point where like, now we're in a position to be able to do business together. But that's the path you have to walk to be able to get there. So let me pull this stuff back up. Okay. All right, can everybody see that?
Yep.
All right, great. So really it's a matter of thinking about the adaptive selling and sort of how do you start, you know, how do you start and sort of figure out where to start? Because when you start to think about different profiles of customers and prospects, you really want to have some idea going in, you know, sort of what are people going to be like? And one thing Zev and I were talking about yesterday is, you know, in this environment, now we're all of a sudden, you know, we're using tools like Zoom and doing probably more virtual outreach. Well, how's that actually going to play with certain customers? You know, there are some that are going to be very tech savvy and others that aren't, you know, and so you might, you know, if you know that going in, you know whether you should be setting up a video chat or whether you're trying to set up a phone call. Or if you know that, you know, when this thing breaks, you know that to be able to close the deal, you're going to have to see them face to face. All those types of things matter in terms of what your approach is going to be. So if you take the segmentation idea and really start to take it and deepen it a little bit further, you know, this really starts to give you you know, the ability to start to tailor even before you go there. Now, I love the conversation about you still need to be really nimble on your feet. You need to ask a lot of questions. You need to be listening because you're still going to be going through that process. But there are some things that can help you even before you get to that point. And really you need both to be successful. So what I did is create kind of a simple segmentation. So this is now, if you think about it, really, these are already potential prospects or customers that you know that you want to target. You know, so you've already kind of done that first screen. But now you're trying to figure out how should you approach them most effectively. So this is a simple 2x2. You know, sort of on the top, it just splits these targets, these prospects, or existing customers into those that you have growing sales with or shrinking sales. So you kind of know what the sales trend is. You know, are you in there? It's going well. Or do you have some challenges? Also, on the left side, you have, are you highly penetrated, meaning that maybe you're running out of headroom there, or you're really in a mature relationship, or are you low penetration? That means you got a lot of headroom. So you're really much more in terms of, you know, that explosive sales growth focus. And so what we'll do is really create 4 different segments based on that. And we always in segmentation like to give these kind of, you know, funky names that makes them memorable, you know, hopefully to give some description about what they are. You know, and so on the top right of this 2x2, you know, those with growing sales and where you're highly penetrated, we call these bread and butters. You know, these are the ones that, you know, you can go back to these partners time after time, these relationships time after time, and continue to sell well. Things are going well. So you really start to think about, well, what does that tell you in terms of when you show up? You don't have to give them the sales pitch on, here's what my product is, here's what it can do for you. You can walk in there and say, how are we doing in terms of our existing business? Maybe here's a new feature that you're not aware of, or other things that can really start to expand that relationship in a different way. On the flip side, you know, if you have shrinking sales or low penetration in some of these other segments like the rebuilds, you don't want to go in there and just, you know, sort of say, you know, hey, you know, I'm here, things are going great. This is where you might want to do a little bit more research and figure out why aren't things going well? You know, what was that last call that you had? You know, what are some things you can potentially build on? You know, I like what Gary was saying, you know, always leave any conversation with a positive. So that there is something that, you know, if that's going to be a target customer for you, you can go back at a certain point in time and be able to build on that. And so what the segmentation allows you to do is really start to think through that and really allow you to start to tailor and adapt your style based on that. A lot of it comes down to, I think, that relationship strategy. So I think that's where some of that comes into play. It can also help you in terms of product strategy. So if you really start to segment it out and say, well, are they really looking at this feature versus that feature? What are they going to be more sensitive to? So those are the types of things that, if you have that information ahead of time, can really help you in terms of, starting on second base. So this is a very detailed way to really start to talk about what adaptation can look like. And so we just sort of talked through that a little bit. And it really gives you an idea to think about things like, also in large companies, we did this as a sales organization. What are the resources that are available to you depending on what type of partner it is? So for us, our top brokers, these bread and butters, they got access to a lot of things, whether it was our awards trip, whether it was a fast pass for service issues, things of that nature. On the flip side, you really think about the tailoring, some of these old flames. So this is a group of brokers in this example where we used to do a lot of business with them, but we're not selling a whole lot right now. We really need to be able to show them that we're committed to them as a relationship. So we would actually send our senior leaders out there for those types of partners. Again, you talk about people with limited resource, limited capacity. That's a really sort of high value engagement, but something that really spoke to, hey, we know that we know that we've either had a service issue in the past or other reasons you're not selling with us, but here's a resource that's available to you, help you in terms of what you're doing.
Just to jump in, guys, I can't tell you how important this is. I was thinking through this when Aaron and I were talking about this yesterday. Where are my Ryan and Teresa? This would be applicable for you guys. Also Amanda, and let's see, Joe Colby. We have plenty of physicians in my neck of the woods, in my sales calls, where we have them stratified from a segmentation perspective into good enoughs, which are people that wrote your products, right? That you guys all did your individual role plays on. My product, who Teresa did an unbelievable job yesterday doing the role play, is under the segmentation called patient pleasers. Because at the end of the day, those are the doctors that are more apt to do what the patients say. Hey, I just saw something on the commercial. I really want to try this product because of X, right? New product like Teresa gave me a great presentation on. Ryan did a great presentation yesterday on Humira, which is a good enough doctor, a doctor that has been, an older physician, somebody that's written for years and years and years, and it's good enough. Listen, I don't want to try anything new. I don't have to try anything new, Zev. Just bring me my food, feed my office, and get the hell out of here, right? Those are the good enough doctors. So think about the segmentation that way. Your customers are all going to fall into these different buckets. So the question is, as salespeople, how do you approach each specific bucket, right? What do you do now from a good enough perspective, right? The doctor that Ryan was selling to, what do you do for that? Is that the same message that Teresa is going to go into with a doctor that might be a quote unquote patient pleaser, right? Something different. Aaron has them under old flames and these different names. Every company is going to have their different monikers. Every company is going to have all these different things to say. But the way I look at my book of the business is I go through the segmentation. My good enoughs, I know are anti-TNF entrenched. They're the hardest people to change. My patient pleasers are the lowest hanging fruit. Those are the people that I can go get business from tomorrow, even virtually. I can still do this with them and still get their business like I did today. So I didn't mean to digress, but just so you guys can get a visualization as far as what that looks like, you guys did that in your individual role plays. That's what sales is. It's developing a strategy based around different segmented doctors. All right?
Yeah. And the other thing too is I think it was Amanda who said that they had worked.
Excuse me, not just doctors, customers. Sorry.
I think it was Amanda who said that you had worked as a waitress over the summer. When you think about that customer, and you said it was perfect. I'm not sure why they came in to get a quesadilla at my bar, right? It's kind of like they're the wrong segment, and there's a cost in terms of when you go in. and this happens when you're, when you're engaging a prospect or potential customer, and you've got the wrong style on, right? And you go in and you say, okay, I'm really going to go in there, and I've got an idea as to how this is going to go, and it could go sideways on you because they might be the type of person where, they're looking for the quesadilla, but you're trying to serve them the burger, right? And so you get that type of thing. And I think everybody runs into that. I mean, you can probably just rattle off, different profiles, that people think about just in terms of people that you run into on the street or in the grocery store. You say, okay, this person really likes to go slow. They like to take their time. They like to read the ingredients, of what they're picking out at the grocery store. And there are other people who are like, hey, I'm only focused on speed. I want to be in and out of here in 5 minutes, get what I need and go. And it's the same in terms of, really trying to figure out those profiles. So hopefully some of the analytics and the segmentation helps you really start to figure some of that out ahead of time. And one of the things that also is a benefit is, sort of as you're going in, you're having these meetings, especially when you're trying to build a relationship, is, make sure that you're kind of picking up on those cues and those notes, because something you can go back to, so that, even after you have a first meeting, depending on how it goes, when you go back for that second meeting, you're going to be much more on point. Make sure that you have something you can go back to, so you know exactly how to show up and sort of get that tailored approach right. All right. So I'm going to skip through this. I think you guys have a good idea as to how that can help you. I think one of the other things, and this starts to get into a little bit deeper down that kind of list of different strategies that you need to think about, whether it's the product, whether it's your presentation strategy. Once you know the profile of the person that you're going to be speaking with, think about how you can use some of these other analytics to really bring that conversation to life. And so this is an area where you're going to have analytical teams that can help you with this sort of thing. But if you can start to bring in an insight and really start to position, sort of the conversation that you want to have in a way that's going to make sense, that can be really helpful. So for example, if you're going in and talking to someone who is particularly swayed by numbers, by hard facts, you can go in, and this is an example I pulled out from our history. We're trying to work with a broker and say, go into in this particular case, the sales rep was able to go in and say, we write about 30% of the manufacturing business in this territory, but we only write about 5% of yours. So we're a market leader in this space, and we can prove that with the information at hand. And then that leads into that next conversation of how can we partner better, and really start to grow this segment of the business together. So analytics come in a couple of different flavors, and this is where it really matters in terms of which club you're pulling out of the bag, because segmentation, it kind of puts you in the right ballpark. And Zev and Gary can speak to this, but it doesn't necessarily take you all the way. In a lot of cases, you're going to have a lot of work to do in terms of those discussions, really trying to draw information out of them to continue to tailor during the discussion itself. And hopefully what you can do is use some of these other things to kind of help you in that aim. So you might have someone like this, and Zev and Gary, I'm sure this has happened to you. You might have someone like this kind of sitting in your back pocket. And if you get into the conversation, you realize that someone's much more relationship driven as opposed to being an analytically, objectively driven person, you may keep this in your back pocket and go for a different path.
I would agree. I think Cindy and I did a role play yesterday where she was going into this thought process of a completely different clinical sale. And certainly we've all had that, but I wasn't an analytical guy. I was more of an amiable guy, and you're going to get that. As long as you guys have the tools at play, think about what we're talking about tonight. Presentation strategies. As a sales professional, you should be able to have a presentation strategy for everybody that you're going to talk to, right? Adaptive selling. You should be able to adaptively sell to any specific clientele that you're going to be talking to, whether it's an amiable, an analytical, a driver, any one of those folks. This stuff that we're talking about tonight is real world, and it's something that you guys will 100% see as you go down that road in sales.
Absolutely. So as you guys think about, your role plays and that sort of thing, sort of, what are some of those things that you would like to have, sort of in your hands before you go in, And what are those things that you think that you're going to need to find out kind of once you get in the room and really, sort of get going with a potential customer?
Who hasn't spoken tonight? Grace, what do you think? Can't hear you. You're on mute.
Do you mean in terms of like the customer you're talking to or the information on the drug?
It's really, sort of what's the type of information you want to have before you get in the room, and what's the information that you need to find out once you're there?
I feel like before you get into the room, I think the target market in terms of like who you're trying to sell to and like the customer's needs. But then when you get in there, I guess customer needs would also apply to that and just like what they're looking for as well.
Great. And what do you think you can explore kind of through that conversation once you're there to really tighten that up? What are some of those things that you'd like to do to say, okay, I know I'm in the right ballpark, how do you really sort of hone in on it from there?
I feel like asking a lot of questions and figuring out what they want in terms of like everything, like from price, what the needs are, and just, I guess, what they're looking for through asking questions, just having conversation and building that relationship.
Great.
Who else? Anybody have any differing or any other opinions? Alec, you've been quiet tonight.
What's up? Can you hear me?
We got you. What do you think?
Yeah.
Matt,
So,
you're on deck. I got you, Matt Stevens.
So for our role plays, I would say going in, I'd want to know like the size of the practice, things like that are public knowledge that you could figure out, the specialty of the doctor and stuff like that. And then once you get there, like asking what they use for like a competitor if you can't already find it out. But basically having everything that's like public knowledge about the doctor or their practice before going in would have definitely helped me going into the role play. Like would have allowed me to build questions and stuff like that probably in a little bit better of a way.
And before Matt, thank you, Alec. Thank you for the answer, Matt. Before you go, one thing you can do is when you go into a sales call, scan the room. I mean, try to find a commonality somewhere. Number one, it sets you apart. Number two, it allows you to build rapport. Number three, it might be, you might find a commonality with this person that you had no idea about 5 minutes ago, and now you're talking about golfing or hiking Kilimanjaro. You never know what that might be or what that commonality might be. I always, new person, I always scan the room. Oh, that's Sally Sue. Where did you do that? Is that a fishing trip? I love to fish. I hate boats. But in this sales call, I love to fish. Why not? I might as well just go for it, right? I don't even like being on a canoe. Matt Stevens.
Yeah,
what do you got?
I think, Alec definitely mentioned it. I think the main one that I wanted to bring was the competition, because I feel like when we were doing our role plays, the number one go-to for our doctors was, I get it, but I'm already on this, I'm already using this drug, or I'm already doing this thing. And I think being able to use the data that you have on your competitors as well as on your own company in order to compare is always important to have, because that way you can kind of roll with those punches and figure out their specific needs and how they relate to your company rather than the competitors, for sure.
In our experience, that was one of the biggest things that our sales reps gravitated to. Out of any of the analytics or other things we could put in their hands, they wanted to know, who are they selling with, right? I mean, you guys hit the nail on the head, because from that alone, you now have a much better idea what is it that they're into, because you're going to know your competitors' strengths and weaknesses, right? And so you start to really get a feel for it right out of the gate. Say, well, I'm assuming they really care about that feature or that thing about that product, and so you can really start to figure out, like, what's your sell against strategy, sort of how do you get in there, like what are the things you want to highlight where you feel like maybe they haven't taken into account the benefits that you can bring to the table. And so that's a huge data point to bring to the table, because it opens up so much more in terms of that intelligence gathering ahead of time.
So in my world of the technology, we're certainly building the relationship. So we sell a little bit differently, because when somebody is signing a contract with us, they're in deep of implementation and spending a lot of time, a lot of money, a lot of efforts. So for them to change out of that specific technology to move to a different vendor, competitor, whatever wording you want to use, timing also goes along with it. So everybody's mentioned about gathering public information. Absolutely. Your first go-to in prospecting is Google. Google has everything, anything you want. Start there, it's free. But then gathering that information, though, it's not just about that company or that product. I hate talking about products themselves. My group, the folks up above, they irritate me in the fact that they always talk about the product name. Right? Nobody cares about your product name, no matter what product you're selling. They care about the benefit of it, both to them and their customers. So a couple of things that Aaron and I and Zev have spoken about, I know Aaron and I talked about, was the walking away part, right? Is taking the analytics and, you know, what's that point when you can walk away? But to go along with what Zev said, scanning the room. So if you're speaking with one person and they're not going to enable you to get to that next step, the next step of the sale. I happen to be a fishing person. If I had the video the other way, there's a picture of me on a boat with a big fish that we reeled in. So can talk about that, but it's about that relationship. Everything falls back on the relationship. You start talking to other people in the room. You understand what their position is in the buying decision. Just because one person says no, unless they're saying an adamant no, and you have to respect that, figure out who else is in the room and why they're in that room with you. It's not just about that they were just happened to be in the room. They were invited to the room. They made an effort to be there. Every one of us can be called into a meeting all day long, but they made some time to be in that room. But why? Right? So when it comes to presentations and it comes to asking questions, I go into a room, you know, a presentation, I spend more time on a presentation, but I'd say 80% of my presentations, after 5 minutes, take a left-hand turn and anything that I prepared is out the window. But that's okay, because when you have the confidence to go into a room or a stage or whatever it may be of yourself and whatever it is that you are bringing to the table, you will be able to talk to anybody about it. It's not sales anymore. Sure, the underlying theme is sales, but at that point, you're building your relationship, you're building your rapport, you're building your structure of selling and who you're selling to, and how do you get that win on that. So take everything in and look around the room and take that all in. When you talk about the competition, sure, I use Google, and we have, you know, you have LinkedIn, but we use discover.org. It's a pay thing, but it gives you a lot of information. Hoover's is another place that gives you a lot of information. These are all pay, and you can gather that information, but information is useless if you do nothing with it. So take that information, go into that room, and talk with people, and the little bell will go off. And I say this all the time, is the little bell goes off, say, oh, you mentioned so-and-so, or you mentioned that. Yes, I read that the other day. How does that affect you? How does that affect you in 6 months, in a year, tomorrow? And just sit back and take notes and listen. Be attentive to people. You'd be amazed, as I'm doing right now, and I'm just talking. Many people will just continue talking, and you will gather so much information from just one or two simple questions of letting them know that you're interested. Just letting them know that you are interested, people will attach themselves to that. So, sorry, I didn't mean to go on another rant there.
Perfect. That's why we have you. You're an expert.
Far from it.
I'm learning more from you folks tonight. Just listening, reading the slides and understanding the different methodologies. I've taken many a sales class, and not every sales methodology works for every person. But if you can take some positive points out of this and make it to you, you will be successful.
Well said.
All right. So I got one last plug from the analytical golf bag for you folks. I'm not going to cover this in depth. I know you guys have a break coming up, but one of the biggest things that you know, sort of you're going to have at your disposal no matter what is sales reporting. And you know, a very smart, very bald man with his own branded pullover on tonight is fond of saying feedback is a gift. And sales reporting is actually one of the best ways that you can get feedback as to what's working and what isn't. And it really gives you the opportunity to reflect, to work with your manager, talk to other people who are in sales, and sort of say, hey, you know what? I'm doing a pretty good job in terms of prospecting. I got a lot of folks at the top of the funnel, a lot of prospects there, but I'm not closing. And your sales reporting is going to tell you where does your funnel start to get jammed up. And it's really going to start to, you know, sort of give you the insight that you need to be able to sort of say, hey, actually, you know what? When I get a hold of a customer, I'm closing like crazy. But the problem is I can't seem to sort of get them engaged at the top of the funnel. And so really take a look at that. And there's some other examples in these slides, you know, that you guys can look at. And if you have any questions, obviously reach out. But it really gives you some ideas around, you know, really thinking about how do you get better, you know, meeting to meeting, thinking about Lil Wayne, you know, and, you know, really start to think about how am I getting better for that next meeting? You want to do a little bit of self-scouting, you know, and really kind of understand it and say, you know, it felt like that was a good meeting. Didn't close, and that's going to happen. You're going to do great. You know, one of the things that you know you want to be careful of is, you know, if you're getting good shots and they're not falling, don't feel like you have to switch it up and start taking bad shots. But at the same time, make sure they're good shots. Talk to your coach, right? Make sure that you're getting that feedback so that you're doing the right things. That's going to lead to the type of results that you're looking for in the end. So that's it for the analytics, you know, sort of the analytics section. You know, I'll definitely say if anybody has any questions, you know, a lot of this is geared towards how this can really help you as a salesperson. You know, there's an enormous amount of depth and obviously the perspective of folks like Zev and Gary, who are real users of this information. Hopefully you are too, you know, to really kind of pull it together. You know, the one last thing that I'll kind of mention, you know, when we talked about it, you know, obviously a time of tremendous change right now. And one of the things I'll talk about is just the change in terms of analytics. And goes back to, you know, sort of one of the things I mentioned about the evolution, you know, and so I think about this in baseball. It's the same for sales. So, you know, sort of in the prehistory of baseball, you know, prospects were picked based on scouts going out and looking at them and trusting their eyes and trusting their gut that someone was going to be a great baseball player. Then you had kind of the Moneyball Revolution. So great book by Michael Lewis, great movie starring Brad Pitt. And really that story was about theoretically the triumph of analytics over scouts and their expertise. The truth is I only got the Oakland A's so far. The people that really figured it out, and it's really encapsulated in this great book by a guy named Nate Silver called The Signal and the Noise, is when you put those two things together. It's the expertise of the salesperson. You know, it's reading the room when you're there, you know, really sort of trusting your instincts, reading people, understanding their needs and being able to provide a solution that's going to be compelling to them, but also using the analytics. And Nate Silver used this as an example where Theo Epstein, the person who really put this together in baseball, he was the guy who used the analytics to say, this guy Dustin Pedroia looks kind of interesting. Doesn't look like he's going to be a future star, but also blended that with the scouts who are showing up and saying, this guy's leadership and commitment is just off the charts. And it was the combination of those two things that made the Red Sox value Dustin Pedroia, led to World Series, led to him getting an MVP, all that good stuff. And what's going to be interesting to see, where does this combination go forward? And you guys are going to be on the front edge of it. You know, make sure that you're kind of running with it. And as things change, adapt and change with it. because this is only going to help you more and more in the future. So definitely sort of dig in. If you ever need any help in terms of that, sort of understanding and sort of thinking about this, and obviously if you're interested in taking different tack and sort of getting into this as a field, definitely feel free to reach out and ping me anytime. Happy to talk to any of you.
Does anybody have any questions for either Gary or Aaron before we take a break here?
You're taking a break. You're just getting going. You're only, what, an hour?
I see some people sleeping out there. We're going to take a 5-minute break, and then we'll finish up. We don't have much left. But listen, guys.
To go along with what Aaron said, if anybody has any question, reach out, role play or any of that. I'd be more than happy to jump on. I've been working remotely from a home office for 20 plus years. You can tell by the mess of my office on that. So I'm more than happy, just general questions or anything like that. But don't, you're going to lose more times in sales, if I can leave you with that, than you are going to win. But when those wins come in, it's quite the high horse that you are standing on. Let me tell you that. It's a wonderful feeling, because the effort that you put into it will come out in that win. There's no question. But I will leave with this little part here. Just remember to always say please and thank you. There's 3 words that are free, but they will cost you more than you would know if you don't use them.
Agreed. Before you guys go, listen, guys, I know it's 8 o'clock. We had a whole thing that we were going to do for you guys in class this week. And when everything went down, the 3 of us got together and thought, how could we do this effectively over this means? And I just want you to know that it took a lot for Aaron and Gary and us to try to get this to where we wanted it so it would be effective for you guys. And I want to thank both Aaron and Gary for taking the time out of their night to talk to you guys. It's not how we planned it, but at the end of the day, it's all about you. And I didn't want to stop and not give you guys this information because it coincides exactly with what we're talking about tonight. So on behalf of the class, if you guys want to, I'll give them a good thank you. I thank you guys for hopping on tonight and taking time away from your wife, your kids, your family, especially in the time that we're in now. The lessons that we're going to give these kids is invaluable going out. So thank you guys. I appreciate it. And I will see you both on the basketball court very soon. Hopefully.
Absolutely. Good luck. Good luck, everybody.
All right, listen.
Thank you, Gary.
All right, listen, guys.
Thank
Take
you.
5 minutes.
Thank you, guys.
Take 5 minutes.
Thank
Go
you.
on mute. Do what you got to do. Come back here at 8:15. Okay. Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Hello. You know you're on mute.
You gonna step up tonight, huh?
I am way too ADD for this. All I keep doing is scanning and looking at people's pictures.
What are you, snoozing?
No, I'm ADD. I keep looking at everyone's photos. And then I'm like, wait, I gotta pay attention.
I got so much going on here. It's crazy.
Are these all your kids?
Oh yeah, they're on break.
They're
They're on break.
adorable.
I got 5 minutes here. Are we back? Can everybody hear me? This this little oasis away from work has also allowed us to have the opportunity to spend extra special time with our kids. Bedtime now, so I'm trying to do both. I'm in the basement here. And I couldn't do this class without putting these noise canceling huge things on because they're running upstairs this way and that way, and it's been a crazy night. So but they're going to bed, which is a good thing. I only have probably 10 or 15 more minutes, if that. So I'm not going to keep you guys for the entire duration, but there's a couple of good points to take out from the presentation. First of all, did you guys get something out of both Aaron and Gary? Yeah. I mean, we talk about a presentation strategy. We talk about adaptive selling. These are all tools that you guys can use in order to effectively do that, right? If you want me to talk via web for 2 hours, raise your hand on that thing. Okay. Oh, okay, good. 30, there's 35. Okay. Well, that wasn't exactly how I wanted it to go, but that's totally fine. Marguerite did not want me to speak for that amount of time, but that's fine. We can, Zach did. But I figured that would be good for tonight. Tomorrow night, not tomorrow night, next week we have another exceptional guest lecture that's going to be coming in, you know, to talk to you guys a little bit about different strategies for the elite mindset. So let's go on here and think about your team. Hold on one second. So from a team perspective, everybody remember their working groups that they were in? Yes? Everybody, is that a yes from everybody? Give me a yes on this little thing. I want to see 33 yeses right now. All right. Amanda Parker is a yes. Perfect. All right. So listen, guys. The last 2 weeks, you're still going to be presenting your Shark Tank presentations. Okay. It's going to be done this way. We can't do it any other way other than that. And I don't think changing the syllabus is going to make a difference. And I think it's going to allow you guys to do something differently in groups, how we're doing it now, how we're actually doing sales now. So I would start working on that with your groups, you know, either FaceTime or through Skype or through Zoom. You guys are more than welcome. I think you guys all have Zoom accounts. So think through that, how you guys are going to present that. And you'll be presenting those the final 2 classes. The classes are set up so that way we do have a guest lecture every class from here on out. We might not have 2, but we'll have somebody coming in to talk to you guys from here on out. And I did speak to one person in the class. If they can get that person to get in touch with me via email, that would be very, very good. And that would fill up our last spot. So you know who you are. Make sure that they reach out to me and we can go from there. So guys, think about your presentation strategies, right? Think about how it involves your group strategy. What does that look like for each one of you? What is it going to look like for how you present, especially in a time of that, of where we're at right now? Team selling is a vital component to sales. It's a vital component to how we operate on a daily basis. And it's a vital component to how we share strategies and share presentations together. Think about smooth transitions. Think about practice. The most effective team presentations last semester were the teams that practiced together. We're the teams that actually called each other. And I know a lot of you guys are going to be done. It's senioritis. This is the last 2 classes probably of your senior life, of your career. I get it. Take the time. You know, it's a huge part of your grade. Have fun with it. You know, this is a sales class. Have fun with it. You know, make sure you guys do the work and present whatever you guys want to present on. Whatever product you want to present on, have depth to it. But make sure your team strategies are, you know, are like this: clear understanding, smooth transitions, defined roles, and everybody has a say in what you guys are doing from the team. Anybody out there use Twitter Yammer, Chatter, anything like that? Again, give me a yes, no, yes. Okay, we got some yeses coming through. Okay. So think about how you use Twitter. Think about how you use Chatter. How might these be applicable, for a sales team? Anybody have any thoughts about how to use social media? How do you use Chatter? How to use Twitter for a sales team? Who hasn't spoken tonight? Let's see. Connor. Mr. Connor.
Yes.
How might you use Chatter, Twitter, social media for a sales team to your benefit?
What do you mean for a sale, like to communicate with people in the sales team, or?
I mean, think about it from a sales perspective. How would you use Twitter, Chatter, some of these social media aspects? How would you use those in a sales perspective?
Yeah, I mean, if you were to communicate with other people in the sales team, I mean, using any of those social media websites would be easy to communicate with other people in the sales team. If you were trying to prospect new clients, like we were talking about earlier, it would also be easy. The content's there, readily available to see.
100%. Use all these mediums you guys can, right? And thank you, Connor. I mean, think about it. You guys have all this at your disposal. There's so much information out there now. Joe Moran talked at the beginning of the semester about using LinkedIn and how 80% of his business is derived from LinkedIn. Gary uses Google. All these other people use different mediums. So use it. Use it to your advantage. Think about ways that from a sales perspective, especially now in this new environment, how these different social media tools can be important. We've covered all of these in PRS 339, the relationship strategy, the product strategy, the customer strategy, the presentation strategy. All of these are important. We've talked a little bit about, the presentation plan. What's your approach look like? What's your discovery look like? How is your presentation contrived? Are you negotiating for something? Are you closing for business? And finally, are you servicing the sales? You guys remember going over all these steps? A lot of you guys did that in your individual role plays, but if you have to refer to those steps, that's a simple way of thinking through your goals, your sales, your presentation strategy. I promise you, you'll probably see that list again down the line. I, in fact, implore you to remember those steps because I did the third test and there probably a question or two on there that have to do with this exact screen. Okay? So think about that. That's a huge component of the presentation plan. So let me ask you guys, from a Bentley perspective, what's the most important in the sales process and why? Is it the approach? Is it needs discovery? Is it presentation, negotiation, close, or servicing the sale? What do you guys think? Go ahead, Connor.
Yeah, I was gonna say definitely the approach, because you kind of have to set that that initial first that first thing that really starts you off on the other steps. Without the approach, without a good approach, you really can't do any of the other steps. So it's definitely important to get the approach down.
All right. Anybody else? Let's ask Andrew. Andrew Clegg, I was going to call on you. You are from a nice, I love the background. Somebody has to tell me how to do that background because I got to get rid of this. There's a glare on this door. But what do you think? What's the most important to you and why? We lost you. You're on mute, buddy.
Sorry, I just had to turn down a little Love Island there in the background.
No problem.
So I think the most important part of the graphic you just showed is the needs discovery, and I think that's because a lot of businesses kind of don't know, or a lot of salespeople don't know, what does the customer really need in this situation. So I think that you could have, let's say like not the best approach, maybe not the best presentation, maybe not the best negotiation, but if you're not meeting the customer's need at the end of the day, I think that you're not going to make the sale. You can have a great approach and they might love you, but if they don't need what you're selling, they're probably not going to
buy it, at least at the moment. So I think for me, that would be the most important part of the presentation is knowing what they need.
All right. Anybody else have something?
Yes, I wanted to say that for me, of course, the closing, I mean, discovering the needs, closing is important, but servicing the sale is also what gives you more leads and gives you more opportunities. So this is all the account management that goes after the sales is also very important to me.
Right. Right. Anybody else have anything to share? I mean, for me, I would agree with a lot of what you guys said. I mean, but I would also say this, in sales, one of the most important components, and we saw some very good ones in class and even yesterday, you can have the most effective approach, needs discovery, presentation, negotiation, but what's most uncomfortable can oftentimes be the close. And for me as a sales professional, I've always said that it's the hardest thing to do, and it takes a lot of risk sometimes. But if you're not asking for the business, there's no purpose for you to be there, right? That's why you're there. That's why you're hired, is to close and get the business, and not to sound like Glengarry Glen Ross, but that is the most critical component of of this whole presentation strategy. Because you're going under the guys that you can do all of those other six steps. You know the approach, you know the need discovery, the presentation, the negotiation, servicing the sale. But this is a really critical component in how you guys get your business and how you guys make a living. You know, building rapport. We talk about that. When you're talking about the approach, building rapport. Some people do it really effectively and some people do it really well. That's a critical component to the approach. How do you build that rapport, and how do you build the foundation for your relationships, right? Nowadays, you know, I put this in here, we're going to be doing a lot more sales appointments by phone. So it's going to be critical to figure out different ways to build rapport if you can't have some sort of link, if you can't go in front of them. So how do you build rapport on a phone? Has anybody in this class ever done telesales? No, nobody in this class has done sales over the phone. Neither have I. And we have one. Emily?
Yeah, I've done sales over the phone before.
And talk to the class a little bit about what is it like? How do you build rapport over the phone?
Yeah, so I guess kind of the first thing I would always do is just kind of ask them about their day or how they're doing, and that kind of like set the tone right away, especially because they kind of thought it was going to be like a pitch. So sometimes it kind of threw them off guard, but it was just a good way to open it up and keep it warm.
Got it. I've never sold over the phone, and I always find it fascinating. And I'm one of those people, my wife who was just down here 2 seconds ago, I listen to these people. I don't know why, but I listen to them, and I love to hear their sales pitch. I always try to answer their questions for a little bit to find out how long they can keep me on the phone. But I always like to hear what the pitch is because it's all scripted. You know, I try to get them off script and they always try to go back to script, and I'm always extemporaneously talking to them about something, but I always like to hear what the pitch is. But it's fascinating how they try to build rapport doing it a different way without that face-to-face interaction. You know, that's really where the foundation is built, not only for your relationship, but that particular sales call, right? This obviously is different. We're not going to be able to do this right now. Again, applicable to sales in this day and age, we can't have that social contact where you're building rapport. So think of some other ways how you can build rapport. Emily, you just hit on one. You know, if you're doing a telesales, and Andrew, where are you? So Andrew sent me an email, right? Earlier this week, I forget what day, but one of the questions that he had for me in this email was, how am I going to adapt my approach from a sales perspective if I can't be in front of a customer? Is that along those lines? I'm paraphrasing, but am I tracking on the same speed?
Yeah.
Okay, perfect. Go back to Love Island, okay? Let me answer your question here. But it's going to be hard, and it's not a perfect scenario. And I know that going in, and I think one of the benefits of doing this is that it's not easy. And there you're going to be missing that social component to a sale. It's not going to be easy to sit there and build rapport with somebody over this. But there are certain ways that you can do it. You can certainly talk a little bit more personal. And I think one of the things that I hearken back to from the first night and just going through our old slides was you miss 100% of the shots that you do not take. And I think in this day and age, it's one of those things that you don't have to take the sale every single time. People are nervous, right? Who knows what empathy means? Give me a poll here. Who knows what the word empathy means? Right? What does empathy mean to you? Rob, you've been quiet. Give me what your definition is of empathy.
I would say empathy is like how, like, being able to read how the other person is feeling and making sure that like you're like on the same page of each other, really.
Right. If I go into a sales call, especially now with everything that's going on around the world, and I'm not empathetic to the customer's needs, to the customer's patient's needs, to the customer's practice. Listen, there's a lot of dermatology practices that are going to be closing. Independent dermatology practices are going to be shuttering down because of this. So if I'm going to go into a sales call remotely, virtually, or on the phone with an office, first thing I have to do is I have to be empathetic, right? Empathetic to their needs, their wants. What's going on? Is there something I can do for you as opposed to what can you do for me? And that's what I'm saying. In this day and age, that might take me more. Once this all clears and this umbrella of COVID-19 clears, I'm still going to have to go into those offices. And I'm certainly hope that they're going to remember the fact that, you know, I took the time and I didn't take the shot. And I was empathetic to their needs and their wants. And that's still rapport building. There's still a critical component to what we're doing here from a sales perspective. But you don't always have to take that shot. So thank you for the answer, Rob. So social contact, home, entertainment, family, work, all these things that you can talk about. Read relevant industry reports, something that Aaron and both Gary said, you know, use social media. Use those norms in order to gain information about your customers. Think about the conversations that you have with customers. You know, how do you do that? You know, how do you gain the attention of a prospect? I was never a huge fan of the agenda approach, right? Where you're sitting there and all of a sudden, well, this is what I want to go over with you today, right? Now I feel like you're lecturing me. So I was never a huge fan of the agenda approach. For me, it's more of, all right, what can I talk to you about? What can we talk about together, right? What's the demonstration approach look like? What's the referral look like? You know, your referral base. All of these different steps here, guys, that are listed are some approaches that you can take once we're out there in front of customers to gain their attention. Okay, does anybody have anything different that's not on this screen here as far as how to gain a prospect's attention? And can we please keep it non-Love Islandish and maybe something, how would you gain attention from a customer? Amanda, your hand is up. I don't know if that's an inadvertent hand or you want to give me a high five.
Oh, I forgot to take it down, but that's okay. I mean, after looking at these, I can't remember if like social media was one of the ones on there or not.
It could be.
Yeah, I mean,
Why
that's
not?
the other one I'd say, I think.
Okay, use social media to gain these the attention of customers. Anybody have anything else? Ryan, what else could you do to gain the attention of a customer? It looks like you're in a blacked out photography room. The photos are.
I'm in my living room, but all the
Okay,
lights are off other than the one.
Okay, got it.
I would just say like connect with them on something other than what you're trying to sell them on. Like build that relationship before you go into actually trying to sell them on what you're there for.
Okay, awesome. Yeah, think about it, guys. It's pretty simple. It's how people would gain your attention, right? How do people gain your attention in real life outside of with your friends? You know, if somebody's going to go into a party and talk about something that's completely foreign to you. Are you going to sit there and talk to them? Probably not. So it's the same in sales. Think about how you would approach these different customers, find a commonality, and pull through. Think about a referral base, questions that you can gain and answer from a referral base, and use that for your needs discovery, right? Use all the tools, or from what Aaron said, use all of the golf clubs that you have in your bag at your disposal. Think about where you've been, who they've been contacted with, what referral base they're talking through, what questions you can ask in order to better develop, that relationship and that initial conversation. The book talks about this sales call reluctance. Be interested to hear, what do you guys think about this? Who read about this? And what can you guys tell me about sales call reluctance? What does that mean to you guys? Katie, what do you think about sales call reluctance?
I feel like it's mainly just like objections that people would have, like on the initial, like first call that you're giving out, like they'll be like, oh, like let me think about it for a little bit, or like maybe call back like in a week or something.
Real world guys, this is a huge thank you, and you're exactly right. Thank you for taking the leap. This is a real thing, right? I can't tell you how many times I've gone up to an office, I've called on them for 4 years, and I sit out in the parking lot and say, God, what the hell am I going to talk about today? How am I going to go into that door? Or I've been struck with somebody that just won't change and write my product. What am I going to do? How am I going to approach them? It's something that really happens, and you have to fight through this as a sales professional to think, all right, I might be rejected. I might not be able to get it. But again, it's incumbent upon you as a salesperson to go back in to these certain accounts. These are the ones that are going to keep you up at night. You're going to have great relationships with folks that are going to carry you through. These are the folks right here that, from a segmentation perspective, these are the ones that are not on board with you. So take the risk. Think about how you guys can inject self-confidence. Don't be fearful of rejection, but these are real things that happen in a day-to-day sales operation. I feel it all the time. The way that you can deal with sales call reluctance, who knows who this guy is at the bottom?
Yeah. Allen Iverson.
Allen Iverson, right? One of the greatest point guards to ever do it. Because technology is what it is, I'm sure because of tonight, this is probably not going to go effectively, so I'm not even going to try it. But think through what Allen Iverson said. He stood up on stage after a practice, and somebody asked him about, an incident. And he went on about a 4-minute rant on YouTube, and it's on YouTube now, about, practice. That's how you get over sales call reluctance. You practice, right? Think about your individual role plays. Think about what you guys have been through in this class, okay? The better you practice your approach, the better you practice your role plays, the better you practice your craft at anything, right? Sports, we have some people diving, right? We have some folks in this class that are into softball. We have some folks in this class that are into different sports, right? Cross country or whatever. The more you practice, the better you're going to be. Melissa Landry, one of my softball superstars in this class, right? Is that true? Is that not what happens? The better you practice, the better you're going to be when you're on the field? Give me a thumbs up. You don't have to answer, but am I right or wrong? Same thing in sales, guys, right? It's a real phenomenon that comes up. Practice, spend the time. I've told you in class that I sit here, and my wife can attest to it. I sit there and I practice with her about role plays and detailing things that I have to get through. It's the same thing in sales. The more you put towards it, the better you're going to be. So with that, any questions, comments, concerns about this evening or about the semester going forward? Okay, so a couple of things. I put up an assignment for you guys. Next week, we're going to go over chapter 11. Todd Setner is going to be a guest lecturer. What I would do is I would look at Todd's profile on LinkedIn. An amazing guy, played in the NBA. had a cup of coffee with the Celtics and the Pistons. Once scored 70 points overseas in NBA Europe. He's a phenomenal, phenomenal guy. And his message to you guys is absolutely incredible. One of the most important sets I got last year was on his talk. So take the time to research him. He's coming to us very special, and he's redoing his entire talk to make sure that you guys have exactly what you guys should get out of it. So take the time, research him, look at the talk to your working groups. I would start doing that because that's going to come up real quick. In the interim, we have 2 role plays left to do, which should be done this week. Those of you that are out there know, I think we have one scheduled. The other one needs to schedule it. Once those are done, I can release those grades to everybody. And also on the syllabus, if you guys need to get in touch with me in this time, my cell phone is on there. I've always told you in class, you guys are my customers. So if you need anything from me, let me know. Stathis, what can I help you with?
I was just gonna say, I saw the sales competition got cut, so is that just means we're back to the final?
Yeah, I mean, unfortunately, there's nothing I can do about it. You know, it is what it is. We all got to innovate. So what I would do is, if you weren't planning on doing it, read chapter 9 through 14, and you guys should do well. If you guys need any additional help, I'm here for you. I hope you guys feel that. I'm trying to be as flexible as I possibly can. Let me know what I can do to help you guys. You know, I want you guys to all feel like you can succeed. And I know that this isn't easy for all of you, and to the seniors out there, I doubly know that this is not easy for you guys. I know you guys wanted to be on campus and wanted to be there with your friends and celebrate the end of a great run. That's not lost on me. So if there's something I can do to make it better for you, better for all of you, let me know. But we'll get through this. And I thought we did pretty well tonight. I thought the transitions were okay. I didn't screw up as much as I thought, but we'll get through this. And I hopefully will make it as fun for you guys for the last few weeks that I have you. And I'm disappointed that I can't be there with you guys in person because I think this class is so visceral. It's so much fun to do together in the room, but I'll do the best I can and just be patient. Okay.
I was gonna ask also, those article summaries we did, are those gonna be posted on Blackboard or just like the essays that we wrote?
I have to get the campus shut down today at noon.
Oh, okay.
So all of those things are on campus. So it's going to be very hard for me to grab those because my card doesn't even work right now.
Yeah.
If I can grab them, I will. But those also will go into your participation grade.
Okay.
Okay. So think about that from a holistic perspective. Those will all go in towards that.
All right.
Anything you guys need, certainly let me know. Jack, did you have a question?
Yeah, I just wanted to see if you received I sent an email trying to schedule my role play like early last week. I just wanted to see if you received it.
I did. We'll talk offline.
Okay, yeah, perfect.
Okay, we'll get off. We'll talk together and we'll make it happen this week. Whatever your schedule is, we'll make it work. Okay. All right, guys. Have a great night. Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Professor.